Hello, this is Mark Tucker, and today we are going to talk about how to create voice agents in Microsoft Azure using the Voice Live API. These agents are going to be hosted in what used to be known as Azure AI Foundry, which is now called Microsoft Foundry. Here are the documentation that talks about Voice Live and gives an overview of what the API does, the different use cases that you can use it in, some different information about the locales that are supported, which text-to-speech is supported, which different language, different LLM models are supported, etc. And also comparing why you would want to use Voice Live API versus just doing it yourself, rolling your own speech-to-text and text-to-speech together. There is a specific quick start that has to do with using agents hosted in Microsoft Foundry. I've got the Python example selected, and it goes through and talks about some more specifics, how to set it up. There's going to be some different things that we'll need to set up for in environment variables based on a Microsoft Intra ID and different things that you need there. And here's a quick code snippet that will show you how to do that, and also talk a little bit about how to use Voice Live. Talks about, in the end, Voice Live API is hosted in Azure. You connect to it via a WebSocket, and this is giving an example of the URL that you would use, the endpoint that you'd use to connect. And there are some different query string parameters depending on if you're going to specify a different model, or in this case, if we're going to bring your own agent, which is what we're going to do. It talks about different credentials, setting up a user with the role of cognitive services user that has a specific scope specified. This will come out a little bit more in the example, but this walks you through some different things with Voice Live API. Then there is a Voice Live samples under Azure AI Foundry in GitHub. Specifically, we're looking at this agent's quick start. So I took this agent's quick start, created my own repository here that's just talking about agents. Because of the change in Microsoft Foundry, then there are now the older style agents and the newer agents that are part of Microsoft Foundry, and they're called Agents version 2. Now, there's no documentation yet on how to use version 2 agents using Voice Live, but figured out some things that could give you a sneak peek on what's happening with that and where that's going. So that's all a part of this. So I just consolidated just one of those quick starts into this own repo and set it up specifically so that there was a version for version 1, version 2. And we'll walk through some code here in a minute. But let's first jump into Foundry. Now, if you haven't been in Foundry, Foundry is in Azure. You can set up a resource in Azure that is your Foundry resource. That includes a project. So in this case, here's the project name that I've set up, and you can create deployments of specific versions of models. You can create agents, things like that. So this is the old style, older, what used to be Azure AI Foundry portal UI. If you toggle this switch here, it goes to the new Foundry, and you can migrate an agent from the old Foundry into the new Foundry, but the new Foundry gives you all kinds of, it's an updated UI, but it also gives you lots of different abilities. That's what's going to give you the ability to use something like Microsoft Agent Framework and use Docker and push your agents into Foundry, and you'll get telemetry, and you'll get different monitoring, different things that's, a lot of this stuff was announced at Microsoft Ignite just last week. So, but let's jump into this case. Also, I have this agent, and this is the ID of this agent. It's telling me that I'm using this model. So what I've gone into model catalog, I created a deployment specifically of GPT-4o, and that is the LLM that this agent is going to use. And you can see that here. This agent, this V1 agent, its job is to speak like a pirate. So anything that you ask it, it's going to talk back to you in pirate speak. You can go to the playground, test out this agent itself. You can also scroll down, and there's this place where you can look at this agent using the Voice Live playground. So here in the speech playground, it gives you the option under here under Gen AI. Instead of picking one of these models or bringing your own model that you've built, you can connect it to a Foundry agent, and that's what we've done. Give it the Foundry name. You can configure input, like is it going to be auto-detect on language or a specific language. On speech output, you can specify what voice, your text-to-speech voice that it's going to use, different things like that, and you can use that. So, just wanted to give you just a look into what this version 1 agent does. All it does is talk like a pirate. So we're going to toggle the switch over here to look at the new Foundry. We'll go over here to build. I created an agent here, my first agent V2. If we look into that, it's also using this GPT-4o model that I've deployed. And this one is going to talk like an old English poet. It's not going to use any tools or anything else, but that is the job of this version 2 agent. So we'll kind of see both of them in action here. Let's go ahead and go to code here. So here's the project, just down here on my local machine. If you go to, I guess you'll notice that there's an agent's quick start. This is connecting to a version 1 agent. This is specific, very close to the example. In fact, I think actually it's exactly the example that they used. This one has been updated to work with Agents V2 in Foundry. So the main function here in this Python file is basically gather some different arguments that you can pass on the command line. If you don't pass anything, it's using environment variables. So for example, if we look here, here's the style of what your endpoint would look like. So instead of your endpoint here, this would be your Foundry resource object, and then services AI Azure Com. And this used to be, just until a few weeks ago, was cognitive services .azure.com. Also, this API version got an update, so now it's 10.1 to 2025 instead of the May 1st preview 2025 API version. So this is where we would specify what our Foundry project name is. This would be that ID of what your agent is. It starts with the ASST underscore and then your agent ID. This is for this one right here is going to be used in this agent's quick start. This one, agent 2 name, is instead of using the ID, it's using the friendly name of the V2 agent. And so this entry right here is going to be used in this V2 quick start. So let's take a look at the code. So there's a credential section. What it needs to use is just connectivity to, well, before you start this, and this will be in the README, you need to do a Azure CLI login so that it knows about you, and then it can pick out the information that it needs to do a proper credential. But this basic voice assistant class is just an object that's going to wrap the call to voice, the voice live API, and it needs the endpoint, the credential, the agent ID, the project name, and this is the text-to-speech voice. So it's just wrapping that in a class that's easy to use. So if we can take a look at, so if we go into this basic voice assistant, this is just setting up a constructor, setting some different instance variables. This is the function that gets called to start your assistant going. And this connect function is kind of the key. This is the function that you call that is going to set up a WebSocket connection between this project, this code, and the Voice Live API that's in Azure, and see that it requires the endpoint, a credential, and you can see a little bit more detail in this. We had pointed you out that you need to look up get a token that has to do with this scope. And so this is a JWT. This is why you have to be logged in with Azure Login. And then this query object are query strings that you're going to pass along on the endpoint connectivity for the WebSocket endpoint. So the ID of the agent, the project name, and then this token. And so this sets everything up. There's an audio processor class, and that's going to do capturing the audio that you're going to speak into your microphone, and it's also going to do the audio playback. And there's this thing here that after this WebSocket's connected, then you're going to set up a session, and this is where you would specify text-to-speech voice and some of these other configuration settings that you don't pass along with the connection endpoint. So that's the basics of that. So let's go ahead and see this one in action. And so remember, this version 1 agent is going to talk like a pirate.
Yar, matey, I be answering all your questions. What be ye wantin' to know? Fire away, aye.
Goodbye, matey.
Fare thee well, me hearty. May ye sails catch strong winds, and your treasure chests overflow, till we cross paths again. Aye.
All right, very nice. So this is proof that that we're able to connect to a V1 agent, and it talked like a pirate to us. If you go into this logs folder, it has 2 files. One of these files is a conversation log. It shows that it connects to a session, what model was being used, what the text-to-speech voice was, the instructions to the agent, and the agent starting off with their greeting, kind of my comment, and the response back from the agent. And then this one is more details, kind of just behind the scenes, saying that it's voice assistant's ready, the session's ready. We did the greeting. It's starting the audio capture. So this is just a log that you can look at to see kind of how things are working with it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the second agent. Now, the second agent is pretty much, I just copied and pasted this version here. But what's different about this one is that instead of the agent ID, it needs an agent name. And so I just did a diff here of the 2 things. So instead of expecting an agent ID, which was the version 1, version 2 is expecting an agent name. And that's pretty much all that's being changed here. So this query is going to be agent name instead of agent ID. So that's really the whole difference between these 2. It's going to behave a little bit different. For some reason, it doesn't, when you start it, it doesn't automatically give you a welcome. You have to speak something before it responds back. But let's go ahead and clear that up, and let's run our version 2 agent. Now, if you remember, our version 2 agent is going to talk like an old English poet. So that's what we're going to do. Now we're connecting to that agent here. Hello there.
Good morrow to thee, kind soul. What tidings dost thou bring beneath the heavens' gentle toll? Speak thy mind and
All right, so that's, as you can tell, that we have now connected to our version 2 agent that's in Foundry. If we look at the logs here, interestingly, it says there's no instructions, and I'm wondering if that's something that they're still working on, of why it didn't give a proactive welcome message. But here it gives us a log, and then we take a look at the more detailed logs here. But that's pretty much it for the code. If you go back to this project, like I said, you just basically have to follow these instructions here and set up a .env file with your different environment variables, and then you can test out agents running in the old Azure Foundry and the new V2 agents as well. So if you've got any questions, I'd love to hear your feedback or questions or comments about this. Thank you very much.